Hello and welcome to episode 18 of the Crimson Misery podcast. My name is Will Rainbolt. I hope you all are doing very well this evening, this morning, whenever you're listening to it. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, consider rating the show 5 stars. Comment down below. If you are listening on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment. I believe you can comment on different podcasts. I know you can for Spotify, but that being said, a lot to break down in men's and women's basketball. I also want to briefly mention this. Now that the season is well underway into conference play and everything, I'm going to start to rely a little bit more on KenPom, a little bit more on bracketology, a little bit later on, probably by the time February rolls around. I'll start to look more at that, but yeah, I kind of want to look more in the advanced statistics among college basketball. So, want to just do that. So, when I last left, I was talking about the USC Maryland game on the women's side. USC ended up, which I mean, going on the road and beating a top 10 team in Maryland, who later beat Wisconsin by 15 points, is pretty impressive. So, a couple, uh, I mean, my prediction for USC winning the national title might be pretty is looking pretty good right now. Even though yes, there's South Carolina, there's Notre Dame, there's plenty of room for other teams to swoop in and take it. I mean, UCLA is also number one right now, but um, yeah. So I mean, South Carolina ended up. This was on Thursday. South Carolina ended up winning. Notre Dame did. Texas ended up blowing out Alabama, which makes a little more sense why they were favored by uh, like they had like a 92% chance to win or something. So that makes a little bit more sense. Um, Poor Tennessee, they ended up losing to LSU at home. They had to come back to make this a game. Um, and they ended up, doing a pretty good job at it. But then LSU ended up winning on Kalen Gilbert's game-winning layup. Didn't see it live, but I did watch the highlight of it. It's just like Tennessee just reminds me, I mean, especially last year when Camila Cardoso hit that like crazy game winner from three. I think that was her only three-pointer of the season, maybe even in her college career. But yeah, so feel a little bit bad for Tennessee there, especially after the men's team ended up losing by 30 against Florida. I've already covered that, but yeah, the men's team ended up rebounding today, but I will talk about that in a little bit. So, yeah, yeah, Michigan. Okay, so I'm gonna first cover the women's side. So, let's see. Yeah, Michigan. I watched a little bit of this game. Michigan destroyed Purdue 87 to 60. Not 97 to 60 as Indiana did one time in 2013, but like who's keeping track of that, you know? Um, so I had to get that one in here. So Mila Holloway had 21 points to lead them, and then as I said, Maryland with Bree McDaniel having 21 points had beaten Wisconsin on the road 83 to 68. Oklahoma State 164 to 57 against West Virginia, which was a bit of an upset, but Oklahoma State's 14 and 2, so not really that much of an upset. UConn won pretty well on the road, um, 73 to 55. Uh, Not really a big surprise there. Georgetown is 1-4 in the Big East on the women's side this year. Kansas State went on the road and beat BYU 92 to 65, and TCU won on the road against Texas Tech 69 to 43, and then Utah defeated Houston 69 to 42. So, Big 12 mostly holding serve aside from West Virginia, but overall, that conference is doing pretty well for itself, I would say, especially with teams like TCU and Kansas State. still being relatively, almost top 10 overall. So I'm looking forward to see how that goes. And then tomorrow we have the big matchups. Well, one big matchup, I would say. Texas at South Carolina. That's going to be a very good game to watch. At 1 o'clock. And then you also have, I mean, Indiana at Iowa. Iowa's probably going to win. I really like another game at Iowa. I've already experienced the men's team already. Like, whatever. I'm so over this season. Oregon playing at Ohio State. I'm looking forward to this. Iowa at number 9 in the country, 15-0 overall. Feel like Ohio State again should be getting a little more respect. I already talked about players like Cody McMahon not getting as much recognition as they should. For a team that's 15-0, you would expect them to be a little more talked about, but I digress. So Notre Dame at Clemson, Notre Dame's going to win that one. Um, yeah, Georgia Tech also. I'm really interested to see how they do on the road against Louisville, because Georgia Tech's really come out of the shadows and has really had a has had a good season so far at 15-1. They're 3-1 in the ACC, and I really like the way they've been playing recently. I've been able to catch a few of their games. Cara Dunn's been a really good player. Um, Overall, she's just kind of their do everything guard for them. And then Tony Morgan with 13 points a game um, as well. I really like this team. So hopefully, for their sake, Georgia Tech can continue their hot start in an ACC that is much better than on the men's side. I've already gone into detail about how the ACC is terrible. I don't need to do this again, even though I'm going to do that once I talk about the men's side. Speaking of which, speaking of other ACC games, Duke is at Virginia. I expect Duke to win this one, but they did end up losing at North Carolina. They were held to 46 points. Again, in overtime, by the way. Like in overtime. How do you score 46 points in overtime? That was the other game I almost completely neglected to mention, but um, yeah. Oh man, North Carolina again. I cannot stress enough how good North Carolina's defense is, and they showed up well yet again. They held Duke to 23% overall from the field, 23% from three, and forced 21 turnovers. Granted, they also turned it over 26 times, North Carolina did, but being at home really helped them. So, yeah, I mean, good effort from North Carolina. And Duke, I'm sure will recover from this. I mean, playing North Carolina is a bit of a tough out on the road, especially because it's the rivalry, Duke Carolina. Um, but then again, it's and we'll see with a lot of ACC games left to go on the women's side. So that said, I don't know if I have too much else to say about the women's team. Not a ton of matchups I'm necessarily curious about until I record next time, but you have a couple later on in Georgia Tech, Notre Dame, South Carolina, Alabama, which I'll get to later this week. So on the men's side, we had Purdue going on the road. This is Thursday, so Purdue went on the road and beat Rutgers 68-50. That wasn't a surprise at all. Um, I I say it's not a surprise with this current Rutgers team. Like they've had Purdue's number before, but the way this Rutgers team is playing is just so anti Rutgers to me in the sense of how they play. Because I'm used to Rutgers losing quite a few games in the Big Ten. Um, but the way they're losing it, going away from Steve Pikiel's defensive philosophy of being incredibly physical being incredibly annoying to play, especially at home. Um, and now they have two potential top 10 NBA draft picks in Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper, and they are 8-8, and they are 1-4 in the Big Ten. That is bad. That is really bad. And it would be quite a shocker. I mean, not, and also a rarity where a team with two potential top 10 NBA picks, lottery picks, would fail to qualify for the NCAA tournament. Um, that's not good. Um, I mean, it's only happened a handful of times. Um, I can't recall off the top of my head who those teams were, but I think Matt Norlander has a great article about that on CBS Sports. So is it was it Matt Norlander? I want to make sure I attribute it correctly. Yeah. So no, it isn't. Come on, who is it? Yeah, it is. It is Matt Norlander, right? Yes, it is. Okay, so yeah, he has an article on CBS Sports titled "Court Report: Rutgers could be the first team to miss NCAA tournament despite having two top five NBA draft picks." Okay, so yeah, this was it. I mean, this season is going way south for Rutgers. I mean, if you lose to Indiana, you're already a bad basketball team. So, no, I kid, but. Um, no, Rutgers has been a train wreck so far this year. And I mean, if we look at KenPom, uh, where are they in KenPom? I can't even find them. Uh, that is not great. Um, so I need to do that. Yeah, they're 91st in KenPom. They have despite being like offensively driven with guys like Ace and Dylan Harper. They are 111th in offensive rating on KenPom and 85th in defensive rating. So not only has their offense not improved, but the defense predictably has taken a big hit, especially with a guy like Cliff Amori transferring to Alabama, who was kind of their do everything anchor defensively. It really, it, it really tanked this team a lot. And I mean, I've seen teams with 500 back in the tournament. Like, for example, I remember Wisconsin in um, what was it, 2015, 2016, have like a 9-9 record, and then bounce back. But the difference is, I mean, Wisconsin had experienced guys like Bronson Koenig and Nigel Hayes, still leading the team, and they were still fine, despite losing guys like Frank Kaminsky and Sam Decker. Um, Wisconsin, and especially with Bo Ryan stepping down mid-season. I mean, that was when they were like 9-9. But when Greg Gard took over, he leaned on guys like Koenig and Hayes to help boost their team up, and that's how they were able to bounce back. I just don't see that happening with Rutgers, man. The way they've been playing so poorly, um, the way they've been kind of not recognizable almost, um, has been a problem. And it especially was when Purdue ended up going on the road to a place where, I mean, it's Indiana's had their problems playing there too, don't get me wrong, but Purdue as well. A couple of very memorable losses for them. But they still, I mean, Braden Smith and Trey Kaufman-Renn both having 16 points, Ace Bailey having 17, and Dylan Harper only at 6. I know he's coming off an injury, but it's still not looking great. So, Rutgers, I mean, it's not, again, it's not looking good. Um, I mean, Michigan State, I mean, a team that not a lot of people were really hyped about, but might be on the bounce back is Michigan State, and Tom Izzo might be doing it again. Um, they defeated Washington 88-54 on Thursday, and then Oregon defeated Ohio State on the road 73-71. Um, Ohio State had a chance to win the game, but the shot from three ended up missing. So Oregon wins that one. They've won two in a row since they lost to Illinois at home. I'll get to them in a little bit, but uh, yeah, Maryland defeated UCLA at home 79 to 61. Great win for Maryland, who definitely needed this type of win. Um, they did not they could not afford to go 1-4, have a 1-4 start in the Big Ten, but UCLA looked bad tonight. And then Mick Cronin ended up getting ejected in this one. So it UCLA just a no good, terrible, horrible, very bad day for them. Jacoby Gillespie led Maryland with 27, and it really, I mean, you could tell UCLA just did not look well put together, especially in the second half. They were obliterated, 39 to 25 in the second half. So, UCLA right now. And I thought, for a while, that they were going to be on the up and up, especially on defense. I mean, they're still eighth in defensive rating in KenPom, but that 89 on the offensive side it showed. It really showed. Like the eye test was about as accurate as you could get. UCLA just looked discombobulated. Uh, on offense against a Maryland team that isn't like the best defensive team ever, but at the same time, um, they are at home and it is a tough out to begin with. So uh, yeah, I mean I'm sure UCLA will bounce back at some point. I mean they have a win over Oregon, but at the same time, uh, we shall see. Um, Even though Maryland is ranked 21st in KenPom, so uh, we shall see. I just the eye test for Maryland a lot of the year has been kind of like, okay. They did play Purdue tough on the road though, so maybe I should be giving Maryland a bit more credit. But again, this was a win they definitely needed to have because going 1-4 in the Big Ten to start is not a great way to start it. So good win for them overall. Um, so yeah, let's move on to what happened today. That's on Saturday. So couple of results that didn't really affect me either which way. Ole Miss defeated LSU at home. That wasn't really a surprise. Um, Ole Miss is still a pretty good basketball team. LSU at 0-3 now to start the year. One of quite a few SEC teams that are 0-3 now. Um, Oklahoma being one of them. They lost to Georgia. Georgia, team of the week. After beating Kentucky at home, they beat Oklahoma at home. Um, so good on Georgia, man. They've had a great start to the SEC year. I had my eye out on them, um, and I didn't quite know entirely what to make of their team so far, but they've they've played pretty well. So good on Georgia for now being 2-1 in the SEC with wins over Kentucky and Oklahoma. You have to win your home games in the SEC, and they're doing just that. A team that did not do that is Arkansas, who John Calipari, with his now 11-5 Arkansas Razorbacks, losing to Florida at home, 71 to 63. I mean, you could also make Florida a good case for Florida being the team of the week. I mean, knocking off a number one's pretty good, and going on the road and not having a letdown is pretty good. So maybe a co-team of the week, Florida and Georgia. Um, I don't know, man. That's a tough call. Um, so yeah, maybe so Tennessee definitely doesn't have to feel as bad now for losing to Florida when in all actuality are a really good basketball team. Um, no scorer for Florida had higher than 15 points. I mean, Elijah Martin led the team with 14, and then you had three others with 12, being the usual suspects and Walter Clayton, Will Richard, and Alex Condon. But um, Adu Thiero led Arkansas with 17. But the stat that really stuck out to me and to a lot of people were from the free throw line because Arkansas scored 63 points. They had 35 free throw attempts and they made 24 of them. Yeah, okay. And they went 3 of 16 from beyond the arc, which is not a great formula. Um, Florida went 8 of 28, which isn't great, but Elijah Martin did go 4 of 7 from three. So Arkansas missed a lot of opportunities to actually win this game. And Florida, give them a ton of credit after losing at Kentucky. They they've definitely stepped up a lot. I mean, they stepped up well in the Kentucky game. I mean, Kentucky's a very difficult place to play regardless, and they played well, at least offensively. So, yeah, John Calipari now 0-3 to start conference play. That is incredible. Um, that is very much incredible to witness. So Texas is also 0-3. They lost at home to number one Tennessee, who will not be number one next week. That will be Auburn, followed by Iowa State, which I will get to that game in a second. But yeah, Tennessee had some big shots. Jordan Gainey hit some big shots down the stretch, despite a great effort from Trey Johnson and Jordan Pope, who had 26 to Johnson, 17 to Jordan Pope. So overall, they had 43 of their 70 points between just the two of them. Um, so, but again, not a ton of guys played necessarily well. Uh, I mean, Zakai Ziegler led the team with 16 points, but even he looked a bit lost at times. He had four turnovers. Felix Akpara also, despite only having 7 points, he had some big rebounds, especially offensively in the second half. So, got to give a lot of credit to Felix Akpara, the Ohio State transfer. And you always want a rebound game after. I mean, again, granted, what Tennessee did lose by 30 at Florida. I understand, but like going on the road and beating a decent Texas team, even though they are 0-3, like they could have easily lost this game, but they didn't. They won. They rebounded. So good on Tennessee, even though they will not be ranked number one next week. Still 15-1 overall. So not much to complain about there. Yeah, and overall, like if we're looking at well, actually, I'll get to KenPom in a moment, like just breaking it down overall. So, speaking of SEC results, Auburn defeated South Carolina, but it was kind of a costly win for Auburn. South Carolina also 0-3 to start the year, but one Janai Broom is injured. He injured his ankle, which yeah, it's so that's not great. They had to really grind out this win after being down by six at halftime. Only played 24 minutes, did Janai Broom. Um, yeah, that's right. Also, they have Janai Broom's name misspelled on the ESPN website, which is really funny. But yeah, Colin Murray Boyles really stepped up for South Carolina again. Like he kind of needs to for them to have much of an opportunity. But Dylan Cardwell had a go-ahead dunk in this one, so Auburn does survive. They're 3-0, 15-1 overall, and they are the best team in college basketball. That is going to be their number next week, and it is their current number on KenPom. So, um, switching conferences for yeah for just a moment, um, because Duke again they have a I give them an 80% chance to go undefeated in the ACC as it currently stands. I think a game that they could lose, I think two games they could lose at Clemson, at North Carolina, and I think that might be it. But it would admittedly be really, really funny if they lost to Miami at home for how bad Miami's been. That would be, that would make me very happy. Um, just to see the response from like everyone, but I doubt that's going to happen. So, Cooper Flag had 42 points today, solidifying like his likely number one overall pick uh, stock, I would say. So, um, Tyrese Proctor didn't have a very good game today, but that didn't really matter all that much when you have a guy like Cooper Flag. He had another like tremendous dunk um, in this one. It wasn't quite the dunk he had against Pittsburgh, but it was still pretty good on the fast break. So yeah, he went 16 of 17 from the free throw line too, 4 of 6 from three, 11 for 14 overall. Yeah, Cooper Flag's really good. He's not a perfect player. He still has a bit of problems. I mean, he's cleaned up a lot of it, especially his like spin moves that he kept trying to do earlier in the season that led to pretty disastrous results. But once again, it just shows that Duke is like multiple tiers above pretty much every other ACC team. Like, is Louisville or North Carolina the next best team? Like Louisville's been pretty good. They've won a few games in a row now. So um and they beat Pitt today. So they in all likelihood have a pretty good chance that they're the second best team in the ACC. So yeah, I I guess, man. I guess this might be the way it goes. Um, so UConn also bounced back against Georgetown. Alex Caravan had 19 points to lead UConn on the road against Georgetown after losing at Villanova. Not much to really say there. Kansas, they handled Cincinnati quite easily, 54 to 40. This was the fewest points Kansas has given up since I believe was it 2011? Like, it's been a while, but Kansas only they held Cincinnati to 40 points, which is pretty incredible. But yeah, they held, I believe, what was it? Or was it a conference opponent? No, I guess no, that doesn't make much sense. Yeah. Okay, so it was against Ohio on November 26th, 2010 is when they held Ohio to 41 points. And that is the lowest amount of points Kansas has allowed, 40 now, uh, since then. No, no, that's not right. Because okay, no, okay, this is wrong. Are they saying conference opponent? Because that is not correct. Because they held Howard to like 34 the next year. I don't know. That was okay, that's wrong. That is incorrect. Okay. So just wanted to clarify that. Um ESPN, what are you doing? What are you smoking, man? That's okay. Well, that this is why I fact check things because that looked oddly suspicious to me. I'm like, there's no way they've held opponents to uh 40 points or lower before. And yeah, they did. They did. Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. Well, Kansas is still, even with that, did hold Cincinnati to 40 points. So that's pretty impressive. Um, Arizona's beating UCF currently. Uh, yeah, okay. This is the a big game that happened. One that I was very happy to take in was Iowa State at Texas Tech. Before their showdown, before Iowa State's showdown at home in Ames in Hilton Magic against Kansas, they had to gut out a 13-point comeback against Texas Tech, despite the best efforts of Christian Anderson, who went 4 for 4 from three, had 18 points. Chance McMillan had 18 points. JT Toppin had 18 points. Darian Williams had 15. Yeah, this Texas team, Texas Tech team, also is very good on the year from the free throw line, but they missed a couple of very good foul attempts that would have likely put the game away. But Iowa State, instead of being down three, we're only down two because of that in regulation. And I believe it was Joshua Jefferson. Is that who I'm? Yeah, Joshua Jefferson hit the game tying shot at the buzzer to force overtime. Um, God, Curtis Jones, dude is definitely the front runner for sixth man of the year in college basketball. Um, because despite not starting, he put up 26 points. Uh, he had some ridiculous shots in this game. Um, yeah, Joshua Jefferson had 17. Keshawn Gilbert had 14. Taman Lipsey had 9. Um, but he also had 4 steals as well, which definitely helped them. And I mean, Texas Tech had a shot to win the game, but the floater was off the mark. So yeah, that Iowa State ends up surviving somehow on the road. Um, yeah, great win for Iowa State in a game that they easily could have lost, and people wouldn't have really blamed or faulted them for that, but no, they ended up pulling this one out in overtime. So they are a very good team. So both Kansas and Iowa State um, will be very much ready for their matchup in Iowa City, which I'm very excited to watch. Very much looking forward to see how that game ends up playing out. So, uh, currently, if we're going on the current games, Boise State's defeating Utah State on the road, 49 to 40, and yeah, definitely a lackluster game from a guy like Mason Falslove, who only has 3 points. Uh, Dayton Albury has 14 to lead Utah State. Um, but Boise State's putting up a pretty good fight on the road. Tyson Degenhardt has 14 to lead them. So Boise State looking to pull off the upset on the road against number 25 Utah State, who is 15-1. So that would be a pretty big upset for me, at least. Um, and a couple ongoing games in the SEC right now. Alabama is defeating Texas A&M 80-70. Um, Texas A&M at home may not be beating a top five team, which they probably should be. But again, Alabama's really good, so not not no shame in losing that game, but and same with Mississippi State. They are losing to Kentucky. Kentucky is up 91 to 86. Um, Jackson Robinson, I was talking about him last episode on how the experience with him is never boring, and boy, is it the case here. He has 25 points, 7 of 10 from 3. And in a game where Kobe Bray is not playing as well, only 1 for 5 from 3. um, yeah, I mean Jackson Robinson stepping up big time, especially when Lamont Butler isn't having a great game either. So good on him. The other four starters have double digits, but um, yeah, when Lamont Butler is also like being the engine of Kentucky's offense, also has 8 assists, 0 turnovers. That's another big reason why Kentucky is ahead and will be looked at as like a team that can go into the second weekend, I think. A guy with actual experience leading a team in Lamont Butler. That's why I have more faith in this Kentucky team this year than I ever really had in the last like 5 years of hate watching the John Calipari era. Um, just because it puts a smile on my face whenever he ends up losing. So um, yeah, Cameron Matthews is 19, but Mississippi State's still down by 5. Not over yet, but it is not looking good right now for the Bulldogs. And now Alabama's up 8 still, even with that. Um, yeah, so let's move on a little bit to the college football playoffs. The college football playoff, I suppose, no plural. But Notre Dame ended up defeating Texas on a game-winning field goal by Mitch Jeter. Um, good on Marcus Freeman for getting this team engaged, still following them, even though whenever Riley Leonard got hurt, and then he comes back into the game, they end up winning 27-24. Um, or yeah, Notre Dame defeated Penn State, not Texas. That's yeah, okay. I got confused there for a second. Yeah, Notre Dame defeated Penn State. So not Texas. And Texas did end up losing though to Ohio State. Um, Poor SEC. I'm so sorry, Kirk Herbstreit. I'm so sorry, ESPN. I'm so sorry, Greg Sankey. I'm so sorry that your teams are trash for the second consecutive season, not making the championship game. Oh my God. It's what do you say now? Do you say now to all the ghouls out there who are campaigning for Alabama and Ole Miss to get into the college football playoff and um, like cheering on teams like Georgia and Tennessee and Texas, and they all sucked shit. They sucked shit this entire college football playoff. All of them. All of them. Yeah. Jack Sawyer had a fantastic strip sack, fumble six against Quinn Ewers, his former roommate, when Ewers was at Ohio State. And yeah, I mean, even though I don't really like Ohio State, it's just funny to see the SEC just like implode on itself. Um, and it's funny to see a guy like Lane Kiffin basically eat dirt on every SEC team that he roots for. Um, I don't know, Lane Kiffin, if you coached as well as you tweeted, maybe you wouldn't have lost to Kentucky. Just a thought, dude. Um, yeah, so the SEC sucks. Good. Um, and then for Indiana, like overall, I just have to say, losing to the national championship and the national runner-up, you know, I mean, would that give us would that make Indiana the third best team in college football? I would say so. I would say so. No, but in all seriousness, hoping for at least a good game. Um, we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening with that. God, I don't. I mean, speaking of Indiana, I don't want to talk about this game, man. I don't want to talk about this game, but I will. No, actually, no. I'm not talking about this game because first of all, need to mention a couple more games. Um, yes, I'm stalling. I can stall. This is my podcast, baby, and I can stall with talking about how Memphis defeated East Carolina 74-70. Um, yeah, Memphis still right now looks like the favorite to win the American Athletic. PJ Haggerty had 25 points, went 10 of 10 from the free throw line. Tyrese Hunter at 14 went 4 of 4. So they're two star scorers, or the ones in this game at least, and overall, I would say, went 14 of 14. Dane Danger added 10 off the bench, former Illinois Fighting Illini transfer. But yeah, he Memphis Penny Hardaway has this team at a four-game winning streak and number 19 in the country. So this again, this era of Memphis basketball has me reminded of the late Conference USA years uh, when it was like Josh Pastner, like in his first three seasons, was going like unbeaten uh, in Conference USA, where they when they had guys like Joe Jackson and Chris Crawford and all those guys. So yeah, I mean Memphis is still pretty good. DJ Steffens, I believe, was his name. um, Gerald Johnson, staunting my uh, Memphis Tigers basketball knowledge for some reason. I don't know why. Um, but yeah, it just seems like with the talent level that this team has, um, yeah, I mean they really should be winning games like this. Maybe a little bit more, but East Carolina did put up a pretty good fight overall. I mean, the game was tied at 68 for a while, and then Haggerty hit a couple free throws. Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, good for Memphis on still winning. I mean, we'll see what ends up happening. I um, don't expect that they'll have a collapse like last year, but we shall see. The other game I wanted to point out was USC after losing to Indiana on the road. Uh, Goes on the road again to Illinois, who looked pretty unbeatable earlier on, ends up beating Illinois at Illinois. So Desmond Claude had 31 points. He wasn't really able to show his full strength against Indiana. He was in foul trouble. But he was able to do this game. He had 31, so good on him for bouncing back in a big way on the road against number 13. Ben Hummerkaus had 15 points to lead Illinois, but they really did not play well at all in this game. They were without. I mean, I will say this: they were without what's his face, Kaspers Yakuchonis in this one, but they still went 7 of 32 from the 3 point line, which is not a winning formula. So Illinois definitely, again, I give them a little bit of leeway because they didn't have uh, Yakuchonis. I can never pronounce his name properly. It never happens. But good win for it's still a great win for USC going on the road after, again, you don't want to fall to 1-4 in the Big Ten. And USC has already had some problems under Eric Musselman, but they were able to bounce back. They were able to bounce back in this one and win on the road 82-72. So I still think Illinois will be fine, especially once they get Yakuchonis back. That guy just propels Illinois to a completely different level in basically all facets of the game. So they'll be fine, but great win for USC even still. A game that has gone final now. Kentucky goes on the road and avenges the loss they had against Georgia. They defeat Mississippi State 95-90. Um, Great win going on the road, number 6 against number 14. Um, Mississippi State not able to take advantage of being at home against the top 10 team. And it looks like Texas A&M is closing in on Alabama. It is a 3 point game. So while I let that game play out and unfortunately continue my suffering on for tonight, Indiana ends up getting blown out at Iowa. uh Game I kind of figured they'd lose, but at the same time it's like, well, it'd be cool if they went on the road and got a win. No, that did not happen. Iowa defeated Indiana 85-60. um my favorite stat of this game before I go any further, Luke Goody at one point had played just 18 minutes and his plus minus was minus 33. I'm not making that up. It was literally his plus minus, and that's not a Luke. That isn't like an anti Luke Goody thing to say. The whole team sucked ass tonight. But um, where do I start? Where do I start? The turnovers. Indiana turns it over way too much. They started to clean it up, and then against a very subpar Iowa team, defensively at least, not off. I mean, offensively, I was really good, but um, especially against a team that is 121st in defensive rating in KenPom. You are only able to score with like 9 minutes to go. You're only like barely able to crack 40. I'm sorry, that's inexcusable.
I get you're on the road in Big Ten play, but come on, at least look like you're awake. It just didn't look like the team was motivated. I mean, Umar Bala was turning it over quite a bit. Miles Rice was turning it over quite a bit. Mackenzie Mbako, I don't know where the hell he went. Where did his jump shooting go? I don't know. I do not know. And the dude's lost. I don't understand how you can be that good of a shooter and only take 3 3-point shots and miss all of them. And yeah, I don't know. I think he started off hitting his first shot from the floor, and then he just like disappeared. I don't get it. I don't understand what this is. I don't know understand why Miles Rice, on a couple times where I thought he should have at least pulled up from three. I know he can hit that shot. He's done it before. Um, I don't know where to start. I don't even know where to go from here. I've already started. I mean, Trey Galloway had a terrible game. He was held scoreless despite being a starter. That's a bit of an issue. Um, I mean, Bryson Tucker and Cannon Carlisle, for taking as many shots as they are, so many of them are medium range twos or long twos, which is the worst shot that you can possibly take in basketball, unless you're like wide open or you get like a mini kick out or you need like a shot to fall or there is a time and a place for long twos or medium range jumpers. When you're taking that as your primary shot, you better be damn sure you can be able to make 7 or 8 out of 10 attempts when you're taking mid-range jump shots. And they are not doing that. They are not doing that. Especially Bryson Tucker is a very talented player. It's another thing where you don't know yet the difference between a good shot and a bad shot. Because Bryson Tucker, even when he makes baskets, I'm not necessarily sure they're the best shots. And same thing with Carlisle. I know they're trying to work him in more into the offense. And I, thought he was going to be like really special, and he still might be, but it's just not working out so far. It really isn't. I mean, Miles Rice led the team with 12 points, and he and Umar Bala were the only ones in double figures. Yeah, really, really not a great performance. It was over about 5 minutes left to go in the first half. It really wasn't a good showing at all in any form. Iowa, give them a lot of credit. They were way more aggressive. Peyton Sanford, uh, for as streaky as a shooter as he is, really turned it on in the second half yet again. He did it against Nebraska at home. He did it against Indiana at home. I mean, the only difference is the Nebraska game was a little bit in doubt, but this game was never in doubt for Iowa. At least, not in the final 25 minutes. Um, yeah, when you're letting Price Sanford hit two threes on you, I mean, just pack it up, man. Um, Drew Thelwell, I also have to say, uh, for a guy that I really didn't take much into account before this game, he had 6 steals, and 5 of them, I believe, were in the first half. So, um, yeah, it was a very difficult watch. And again, I didn't expect Indiana to win on the road, but God, when you're allowing a guy like Owen Freeman, who clearly isn't 100% and had some sort of like nagging injury, when you're still allowing him to run 94 feet for layups, the big man, Owen Freeman, again, that's inexcusable. Josh Dix had 4 threes in the first half. What else do you like? I don't know what else to say, genuinely. Um, Again, this Iowa team, when they play like this, They are, and actually, like, you know, have a good defensive showing and have a good offensive game, they can hang with almost anyone. And they can beat a lot of teams like this. But I hesitate because under Fran McCaffrey, Iowa has always been, they've always flamed out later in the season, and they flamed out a lot in the first weekend of the NCAA tournament. Fran McCaffrey still hasn't made a Sweet 16 as Iowa's head coach. I don't think he's made the Sweet 16 ever as head coach. I don't think it was with when he was with Siena. Um, yeah, I don't think that was ever, yeah. So, and he's like had way more talent at Iowa before this. I mean, when he had Roy Devin Marble and Aaron White, Jared Utoff, Luca Garza, uh, Keegan and Murray, uh, yeah, Jordan Bohannon. So he's had more talent in the past than he has had this season, overall. But again, I've been fooled by Iowa plenty of times before. So I hesitate to ever pick Iowa because of that reason. But again, it's like the one time I do like uh, say that I was gonna like not is gonna still flame out. They always find a way. Uh, or teams usually find a way to prove me wrong, and this time it might be Iowa's turn. So yeah, I don't know how many more Big Ten road games under Mike Woodson I can possibly take. Because, look, again, I'm not trying to go on the anti Mike Woodson bandwagon. I'm not trying to be like a particular podcast, predominant Indiana podcast. Um, Yeah, so according to Inside the Hall, Indiana, uh, 12 Big Ten losses, or yeah, 12th loss in Big Ten play by 15 or more points under Mike Woodson. Jeez, that's bad. And they didn't just lose by 15, they lost by 25. So, um, yeah, it's bad. It's not great. Um, We also have a game really coming down to the wire now. Alabama is up 87 to 84 on Texas A&M on the road with 40 seconds left. Um, yeah, this game's really coming down to the wire. So let's tune in for a little bit. Not gonna have the volume on. You I mean you can't hear it, but um, yeah, I just want to just talk about life for a little bit. How about that? Um, no, but it's like for me, Mike Woodson. I don't want to jump the gun on anything related to Indiana basketball coaching because I've gone through this twice before as an Indiana University fan, and obviously other fans who have lived through. I mean, Bob Knight, all of that controversy, and then when that ends up going south, it's the Mike Davis era, and you have that bit of a fluky, um, fluky kind of run that you had. He had to the national championship game where he lost to Maryland, and then uh, the guy who he beats to get to the national championship game, Kelvin Sampson at Oklahoma, gets hired at Indiana, has the sanctions and recruiting violations, and then he gets fired for 3 or 4 games of Dan Dockage, and we saw how that went. And yeah, it's it really has been a cluster ever since then. So yeah. As an Indiana fan, living through the last couple years of the Tom Crean era and the defense being lackluster, only to be replaced by the exact opposite in Archie Miller, where the offense was lackluster. Um, yeah, you just never know what you're gonna get. And so for me, it's like if they do move on from Woodson after this season, it's like who else who can you who's going to be better at this point? And the answer is probably quite a few head coaches who are, climbing up in the ranks. We've seen this already with guys that have transferred into the quote unquote blue bloods, like Mark Pope going to Kentucky and having a fantastic season, going on the road and getting wins against against Mississippi State. And then you also have, I mean, kind of questionable to call them a blue blood, but I mean, Pat Kelsey having a decent first year at Louisville. Um, it just doesn't make sense uh, why this hasn't translated to Indiana twice now. I mean, Archie Miller going from Dayton to Indiana and that completely going south on them, and then the Mike Woodson era just kind of stalling, not really going anywhere, at least for the first three seasons anyway. It's just weird, and it really leads me to believe that nothing that Indiana will do will cure it of of these problems. Um, I wish I knew an answer for what to do, but there just isn't. It seems like. Because so many schools and so many programs um, have passed Indiana, uh, not just passed, but have lapped Indiana on the both the play style and recruiting and transfer portal additions. Like many schools and many programs have passed them by. So it almost just feels like nothing they will do will end up solving this. I don't know if firing Mike Woodson is the answer. I have my hesitations about that, but I just think that if they finish really badly this year, I just don't see Mike Woodson keeping his job. And I mean, I'm not rooting for a collapse by Indiana by any stretch of the imagination. Like, understand, I want this team to do well because on paper they're very very talented, and I want them to be good. And they're still 4-2 in the Big Ten. They need to obviously get, quad one wins. They have an opportunity against Illinois. So, but again, if they're not able to win against teams like that, it's going to be really tough to justify Mike Woodson staying another season. So, yeah, that's kind of where I am with that. So, let's see. Alabama is up 92 to 86 now over Texas A&M. So it looks like Alabama is going to hang on and win. Um, let's go to a bit of a let's go to some of the mid-major schools, mid-major conferences uh, as well. So let's see here. Yeah, standings. So currently, let's do an update on the mid majors. It's a good time for it. So currently in the Atlantic Sun, the Queen's University Royals are 4-0 in the conference. So congratulations, Queen's University. I don't know much about you, but yeah, trailing them are four other schools, including Jacksonville, Florida Gulf Coast, North Alabama, and Lipscomb. So that is that conference. Bryant is 2-0 in the America East. They just defeated Vermont for a big win. Won by 20 points at home, did Bryant over Vermont. Now, am I mistaken, or is Doug Eater still there? I thought he graduated. Uh, yeah, looks like he's graduated or he transferred to another school. One of the two. Yeah, I think he graduated. Okay, so yeah, still a big win for Bryant. Don't know if they'll be anywhere close to the top of the America East at the end of the year. Um, Kind of thought UMass Lowell, it would be their year this year, and it still might be. They're 13-5 overall, and 2-1 in the America East. So that they're still my pick to win the America East, get the auto bid there. Um, Memphis at 3-0 atop the American Athletic. Tulane is right behind them at 3-1. Go Green Wave, I guess. So, um, and not really. I thought Wichita State was going to be better than they were, and they're 0-3 to start the start conference play. So, yeah, very interesting. So, St. Louis at 3-0. Um, I may be a Cardinals and Blues fan, but I'm not really a Billikens fan, even though, like, I guess, I mean, it's cool to, like, see what they're doing and whatnot. So, good on St. Louis for currently leading the A10. I think they're off to their best start since 2018, 2019 in conference play. So, we shall see. Uh, oh, God. Looking at the ACC standings and wanting to throw up. So, God, I mean, is Wake Forest one of the better teams? Again, Louisville might be the second best team aside from like Clemson. Okay, but enough of that. Uh, again, Arizona really on the up and up. Um, believe what are they doing currently against UCF? I'm meaning to check that. Okay, they're up by 6. No, they're up by 5 on UCF. So that's an interesting game to watch. It's going to be on after the Alabama Texas A&M game concludes. Um, or did it already conclude? Um, Survey says no. It's still a little bit of game to go. They are up by 4. So and now they are up by 5. Yeah, this game's over. So, good job on Alabama going on the road and beating number 10 Texas A&M. Again, Iowa State and Houston are 4-0 in the Big 12. Uh, Marquette 5-0. St. John's 5-1. They're going to be pretty good, St. John's. I think they will. This is genuinely their year to make the tournament for the first time since I believe it was 2014-15 under Steve Lavin. UConn at 5-1 as well. Again, I already talked about them a little bit. In the Big Sky, Northern Colorado at 12-5, the former home of Dalton Connect. So good on them. They are 4-0 and 12-5 overall. So Big Sky looking like Northern Colorado's to lose at this moment. Montana is a game behind them at 3-1. Big South, High Point is 3-1 at 15-4 overall. Big Ten, a couple teams undefeated. Michigan State and Michigan at 1-2 respectively. UC Irvine and UC San Diego are both 14-2 and 4-0. If I were commissioner of the NCAA, I would allow both UC Irvine and UC San Diego in the tournament. Say they both go like 17-1 with losses to each other. Um, I would personally put both of those teams in the NCAA tournament. Now, I don't think that's going to happen, but it'd be cool, right? It'd be really cool. Come on. I would like, yeah, I would, I would say, and especially with a team like UC San Diego, who's on a 12-game winning streak, like it's heartbreaking to me to know that one of these teams will likely miss the NCAA tournament. Now, obviously, there's still a lot of season left, but I just think when you have like 2 or 3 losses and you're like not in, like obviously I understand it if you've played a non-conference schedule and you're in a bad conference, but like the Big West isn't it's one of the better mid not better mid majors, but like, they're kind of in the middle between like high tier mid majors and they're definitely not one of the worst overall. So, at least historically speaking. So, yeah, so I think again, if the NCAA had it my way, I would definitely put both of them in. Also, William and Mary in the CAA had a great buzzer beating win. Uh, don't who did they play? Yeah, they played North Carolina A&T. Um, North William and Mary, notably a team that has never made it to the NCAA tournament, and that'd be if they were able to make it this year, it'd be their first. So we'll see if that ends up holding up. But Charleston has made the NCAA tournament multiple times, and they're 13-4 this year. So we shall see. But William and Mary so far is 4-0. So we'll see if that ends up holding up for them. Speaking of Conference USA, New Mexico State currently at 3-0. Middle Tennessee behind them at 3-1. Horizon League, I almost like I forget sometimes the Horizon League exists. Cleveland State is leading the Horizon League at 6-1 overall. Um, okay, interesting to know. The best record overall is Purdue Fort Wayne with at 13-6. So Ivy League wise, Princeton, I mean, a couple teams are this so few games, but overall, Princeton is at 12-4. Columbia, after a great start, is now at 11-3, and they are 0-1 in the Ivy League. In the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference, Marist is 4-0, Merrimack is 4-0, even though they're 7-8 overall. So, and Marist is 11-2. Um, Yeah, I don't know much about the mock, I suppose. That's one of my weak points in college basketball. So, but we got some action going on with Miami, Ohio at 3-0, and Akron at 3-0, and Ohio at 3-0, and Toledo at 3-0. So four 3-0 teams in the MAC. And I really, 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 really hope that for one, Peyton Sparks' sake for Miami of Ohio, uh, and Cam Kraft also has been. I've seen a couple games where he's uh, gone off this year. Uh, so hopefully with this roster, they are able to do pretty well. Um, Peyton Sparks is on this team, right? I thought didn't he transfer back to? Oh no, that was Ball State. Not okay. Clear my head, reset, reboot it. That was Ball State, not Miami of Ohio. Um, oops. Yeah. But I do know Campcraft, and he's been really good. So, if you don't know that name, now you do. Talked about already Drake, after starting undefeated, they lost two in a row. They're 4-2 in the Missouri Valley. Bradley is 5-1 this year at 14-3 overall. So it could be between Bradley and Drake for that Missouri Valley bid. Uh, the couple other teams like Murray State, Northern Iowa are have good records, but they're 10-7 overall. So I'm not sure if they'll be able to upset one of the better teams this year, but we shall see. New Mexico and Utah State are both undefeated, but Utah State, I was aforementioned, are in progress between with Boise State. They are currently winning. No, they're not. They are tied at 72. So that is another game that is coming down to the wire a little bit, and something that I will likely have to flip in order to watch the conclusion of that. Um, where is that? I believe that's on CBS Sports. Is that right? Well, if I okay, sometimes it just takes a little bit to load. Um, don't know if you all can hear that, but I have it. I have it on. I needed to have the volume up a little bit so it continues playing. Hopefully that doesn't. Hopefully the audio doesn't leak through. At least fingers crossed is that it doesn't leak through. A couple other, the Northeast Conference, Long Island University is 3-0. Sure. At 7-11, this is the Northeast Conference is a guaranteed 16 seed. Once again, the Ohio Valley, Morehead State at 5-1. Also might be looking like a team that or a conference that has a 16 seed. Patriot League, Colgate is leading 3-1 and 6-11 overall. So we have three conferences back to back to back that are very likely 16 seeds. Um, Samford in the Southern Conference is 4-0. And then, I mean, the SEC is just a bloodbath yet again. So many teams with great records. South Carolina is the worst team at 10-6, uh, and 0-3 overall, combined with five other teams are 0-3. Uh, three teams that are still unbeaten in the SEC. So very interesting. We will see how that ends up continuing. McNeese is 5-0 in the Southland Conference, followed that with Lamar, Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, Northwestern State. Um, I'd say McNeese probably has that, but you never know. There's always a weird team in conferences like this that ends up making a big run. The SWAC, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, Southern is leading the conference at 3-0, 8-8 overall. I sense another 16 seed is probably going to arrive out of that conference. So yeah. Ooh, Boise State just took the lead 74-72 against Utah State. So that's going to be very interesting. We will see if a team remains um, unbeaten in their conference, and for a team that's 15-1 currently. Um, I've been the Mountain West is very interesting conference. And again, Utah State, yeah, 42, 42nd in offensive rating, 57th in defensive rating. So they've overall like been really solid on both ends. But Boise State, um, 17 spots behind Utah State at 59. So Boise State's not a bad basketball team. They're also really solid. So this is actually a better matchup than a lot of people may have thought it was going to be, especially because it's at Utah State, where it's very I mean, great home court advantage. Oh gosh. So Utah State just got a steal, and then Boise State stole it right back, and they score for a 4-point lead. 76-72, minute 30 to go, and a timeout by Utah State. So Utah State's in trouble. Um, and there's Indiana at 56. They're probably dropping down a little bit after that loss to Iowa. In the Summit League, St. Thomas, Minnesota. I keep forgetting that they're Division One now. At 4-0, Omaha at 4-0 and 10-9 overall. St. Thomas, Minnesota is 14-5 overall. I don't think they're eligible this year, correct, for the NCAA tournament. Um, I don't think they are. Um, Actually, let me look that up now. Um, is St. Thomas uh, eligible for the NCAA tournament? I believe that, yeah, okay. Um, no, they are not eligible this season. So that's a shame. At 14-5, yeah, I would want to see St. Thomas upset a team. Ooh, Utah State just hit a three. 76-75. It's getting closer. Um, yeah, in the Sun Belt, Old Dominion is 4-1. South Alabama's 4-1. Maybe a 15 seed out of the Sun Belt. Um, and then the West Coast Conference, both. What a surprise! St. Mary's and Gonzaga are 4-0 overall, we're in the conference, and then St. Mary's is 14-3, Gonzaga's 13-4. This is going to be interesting, especially with Oregon State and Washington State having joined the conference. We'll see how that ends up working out. And then in the WAC, the Western Athletic Conference, Utah Valley is 11-6 overall and 3-0 in that conference. So there is your conference update, including the mid majors. Um, And then, yeah, let's go to KenPom a little bit. Let's just see the updated standings. So Auburn at number one. They have the number one offense. Houston has the number one defense. Um, an issue for let's get Iowa State at four, Duke at two. Yeah, Duke is second in defensive rating, which is pretty crazy. Considering that defensively last season Duke was, I mean, they were 16th, not bad, but um, you take that into consideration that they're just steady improvement overall year by year, and yeah, great stuff to see them improve so much defensively. Iowa State ninth in defensive rating and sixth in offensive rating, which Iowa State last year was 52nd in offensive rating. So the fact they've improved that much has me feeling much better about Iowa State overall. I mean, and just the eye test proves that, like, yeah, offensively they've gotten so much better. Um, so that improvement cannot be overstated. Tennessee 25th in offensive rating, which is for a Rick Barnes team is pretty good, and third in defensive rating. That was never really in question. Kansas fourth in defensive rating, 31st in offensive rating, and then you flip that completely when you have a team like Alabama and Gonzaga, who are second and fourth respectively, but then Alabama is 40th in defensive rating and Gonzaga is 36th in defensive rating. And then it really like Michigan, uh, you talk about just well balanced. Michigan rounds out the top 10 with 15th in offensive rating and 18th in defensive rating. Um, yeah, Michigan's still going to be very, very tough to deth- to not dethrone because they were pretty bad last year. That's funny. They have two Eric Cartman cardboard cutouts to try to distract Boise State from shooting, even though South Park is notably set in Colorado, in South Park, Colorado. Um, and Utah State has the lead. Boise State calls timeout. 77-76. Bedlam in oh, it was an and one. That's funny. No one heard the whistle, so Boise State tried to call timeout, and they that's funny. Oh yeah, also Wake Forest beat Miami. So Miami is now 4-12 on the year. Hilarious. Um, that's just amazing. Virginia Tech defeated California 71-68. God, what a terrible conference. I just can't stress enough. This conference is so bad. Um, yeah, any other notable? I mean, again, you talk about a great win for Iowa State. Texas Tech is 16th in KenPom, ninth in offensive rating, and I can believe that because they all year have been really, really solid offensively, especially from the free throw line. They've been really good. Defensively, had a bit of a struggle. I mean, they're 57th overall in defensive rating, but ooh, so Utah State misses a free throw. Boise State dribbles up the court, the top of the key. Ooh, they're passing it around. It's my first time doing play-by-play on this podcast. Goes inside, kicks it out, top of the key, three for the lead! And Boise State in front, 79-77, 10 seconds left. Utah State calls their last timeout, 9.3 on the clock. This is hilarious. I should do more podcasting when games are actually going on because this is amazing. That was cold-blooded. That was just a defensive breakdown. They all closed in and they left Cardenas wide open. Jeez, that was a huge shot. On the road against a top 25 opponent. Let's see what happens. This is going to be crazy. It's going to be a crazy finish. I will probably, if this game goes into overtime, I'm probably ending the podcast, but especially because I've talked about most of what I want to talk about. Um, Kentucky 87th overall in defensive rating. And this is also, I mean, okay, 59th in defensive rating for Wisconsin. Normally, you expect a team like Wisconsin to be a little bit better on the defensive end, but their identity is definitely more offensive oriented. Um, Not in the way that Rutgers has been, but like even still. And Connecticut for their defensive efforts, how they were so dominant last year, last 2 years. So let me like seventh overall in defensive rating last year, fourth in defensive rating last year in KenPom. They are all the way down to 112th overall in defensive rating. That's a drop off. And obviously you credit that to the departures of Stefan Castle and Donovan Klingen, but it's still very difficult to see. And a lot of people were concerned about the defensive efficiency that UConn would have. Okay, he gets it in. They take it for the lead. He got fouled on a three and it like rolled around the rim. Oh my God. Wow. 80-79 Utah State. Oh my God. What a shot. Because he got fouled and I was like expecting them to try to rebound it. And then I hear like a whistle, and then he's on the ground, so everyone's just sort of stops, and then it like hangs on the rim, like bounces around, hits the back of the rim, and in. That's incredible. It was just a oh my God, Tyson Degenhart. Jeez, that is incredible. Oh wait, no, that was Martinez. Sorry. Um, Jeez, oh my God. Yeah, Martinez hit the go-ahead shot and hits the free throw. 2-point game. Boise State has a timeout. They will not call it. 5 seconds. Pulls up. One. Win. And it's off. Utah State survives. 81-79. 16-1 overall. Boise State loses a heartbreaker off a 4-point play. Oh my God. Wow, that is incredible. Um, Ian Martinez with the game winner, 5 of 7 overall. Oh, whoa. Yeah, and then Tyson Degenhart fouled him. That's what it was. Uh, oh my God. That is incredible. Okay. Well, with that being said, so yeah, Utah State gets their fifth consecutive win against Boise State. What a finish, man. What a finish. Well, if you didn't know if you didn't know what happened, if you didn't watch the game and you listen to this podcast, now you know. I was just like that is one of the craziest shots I've ever seen. Oh man. All right. Well, with that said, thank you all so much for listening to this podcast. And yeah, I will see you all next time. It is a great way to end the podcast. All right. Thanks again, y'all. Bye bye.